Rob Garland is a personal friend. He is also one of the main reasons that I and a lot of people are still in the air. He was the first man in this area to create a community around FPV, and for that I am eternally grateful. In this episode, Rob talks about what it was like to create that community, where it came from, and what kind of effort it took to keep it together. Hope you like it. You know, back in 2016, you, and it may have been before that, you started what ultimately became the first FPV community in this group, which grew pretty large for this area. You also started the first multi-GP chapter around here. Talk me through some of that. And building a community is hard. And I got the feeling during a lot of the time that I was part of that group that you put your heart and soul into it. And it didn't always return that heart and soul back to you.
No, it didn't. It didn't. But that's trials and tribulations. When you take, at the peak was like 360 some local or 380 some local people together in one room. Not everybody's going to like each other, and a lot of that, a lot of it came to me. A lot of it came from me. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of it came from me. Some of it came from me. In all actuality, when you break it down, even you and I had an
altercation.
We had a little thing, and it grew into one of the greatest friendships that I just total respect and admiration for you, my friend.
Thank you, buddy. So, it is returned likewise.
Oh, for sure, and I feel it right here in my heart.
right in my heart.
Right in my heart. But no,
I'm having a heart attack.
it's crazy to think back, how it all started. So again, back to my buddy Mike Dodd. We after I figured out FPV and mini quads and stuff like that, I kind of I talked to him about it, because he works with underprivileged kids and kids with problems and things like that. So he's a great listener.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, there's got to be people out here that do this right here, like mini quads, and just want to go fly, because this is like a adrenaline rush, man. This is crazy. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop doing it. It's all I want. I get home from work, I want to go fly something, And it's, there's nobody around here that does that. There's nobody around here that does that. I was like, well, I'm going to find somebody. So I literally, and this is no joke. You can call me stalker. You can call me what you want to call me. There used to be, I don't know if there still is, maybe. There used to be a webpage called Fly Tracks or Fly Treks, to where DJI pilots could actually log their flights.
Okay.
With that site, because Facebook was still kind of newish in that era. Well,
you mean Facebook had no privacy controls whatsoever during that time period?
Right. Yeah, exactly. They're just everybody's like Wild Wild West on Facebook.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'll just post all my flight videos right here and all my flights, actually.
Well, what they did is this website actually allowed people to connect their Facebook pages to this website, so that they could post there or whatever. So I went to this site, and the people that were local to us, I just did it in a 20-mile radius. And I found 4 people, and I was out of the 4 people, 3 of them had their connected Facebook page. So I would go to their Facebook, check them out, hit them up on Facebook, and be like, yo, I see that you fly quadcopters or, whatever, because we weren't calling them drones back then,
Yeah.
And that was the forbidden word. Don't call them drones.
Right, yeah.
So I said, hey, do you want to hook up one weekend and just go fly, and I got responses, and I just created a little group on Facebook. It was, I was actually looking to get into aerial photography, and I created a group on Facebook called, New Heights Aerial Photography. And, it was just the abbreviated of Hampton Roads. And, so I added these people to this group, and they weren't active. They didn't do anything. Never said anything. Never, hey, do you want to go fly or anything like that? And I was like, man, this sucks. These guys, they're just not active. So I need to find someone else. So I went back to my roots. I used to do a lot of buy, selling, and trading on Craigslist when Craigslist was actually good, before they started handing out, like, all the prostitutes start soliciting.
Right.
And the company started putting all their ads out there and stuff like that. But so I would go on Craigslist and look up drone or quadcopter or anything like that in the search engine. And if anyone was selling something, I would literally call them or text them and say, look, I don't want to buy your gear. I just want to go fly. Are you still flying or are you just selling everything because nobody else is? What's up?
Yeah.
And I actually got a response from a couple people, and we actually hooked up and went out and flew and hung out and stuff like that. And so what went from me and Mike, I actually made flyers and try to go to like some of the local hobby shops, like, nobody does that.
Right.
We're all flying planes and RC cars and stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to waste the money that I spent to leave a flyer here, But yeah, it was nuts trying to just to get some people to fly. And then it went from me and Mike, and then it just kind of developed into 6 other knuckleheads that, out of the 6, 4 got along great, and then the other 2 just kind of did their own thing and bitched the lot or whatever. But so it started to kind of gain a little bit of traction. We had an addition of people here and there, and I was like, we should start a club, we need a honeycomb hideout and all that stuff, get together on the weekends and just hang out and, let's give it a name, and we'll all put in a name in a hat, and we'll pull a hat and we'll pull a name out and see what that's going to be the club name. Mm-hmm. And so everybody threw in their names and stuff like that. And I'm thinking about a couple names, and my wife looks at me, and I was like, I don't know. What do you think? Like, I'm thinking like prop something. So we all props, and she's like, well, all y'all are a bunch of busters. And I'm like, this is no joke. That came straight out of my wife's mouth. And I'm like, you know what? I love you, but you're right. We are a bunch of buses. I was like, prop buses. That's it right there, And right. I kind of dabble in like, a little bit of art and stuff like that. So a little creative. So we threw our names in. Everybody knew what the names were. And I did a little live thing with everybody. I just kind of said, okay, here's the name. And I pulled it out. And lo and behold, it was prop buses.
Wow.
So prop buses was born from that. Yep.
You still fly with a few of those guys, don't you?
I do. And I have a lot of respect for those guys because, I mean, they, one thing this hobby teaches you, one thing this hobby really like shows you is like real friends. Mm-hmm. And of those guys, I would do anything in the world for those guys. I would lay down so they didn't have to, whatever it took. And, but yeah, it's a little weird. It started out from like 6 and then it kind of grew to 8 and a couple people fell off, a couple people came on and stuff like that. And we kind of started because it was, it was myself, my buddy Big Lou, he came in a little bit later. Mm-hmm. And my buddy Andrew Wong, which is funny story about Andrew because when he hit me up and he's like, hey, I want to come hang out with you guys. And I looked at his profile and I was like, do you live in Richmond? I was like, there's a Richmond crew, Richmond City Racers, right up the street from you, And he's like, nah, man, I live in Hampton. I was like, nah, you might want to go talk to those guys. He went and talked to those guys and they sent him back to me. I was like, damn it. Can't get rid of this guy. And that's the running joke with Andrew because like whenever we go to a River City Racer event or anything like that, I'm like, this is the guy you guys could have had, but you gave him up.
I'll tell you what, I remember seeing him fly a few times And it was he was amazing. He was good.
He's a wizard. He's a wizard. But he's a wizard with line of sight, man.
Yeah,
he's fun. He's a fun guy. But
so how did? Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, good.
How did you go from prop bustas into drone on? Like, how did that come about?
So when prop buses got started, like I said, it was a few of us, and then it started to kind of steamroll a little bit because the FAA at that time had come out and said, these new regulations, but they had also said at Christmas this year, what was that, like 2016?
Mm-hmm.
They were like, there's going to be 1 million drones in the air. And lo and behold, like the floodgates opened and like all these people started looking for drone groups on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And we always wanted to keep prop busters as a local club group. That was the main thing. Like we wanted to stay local. We don't want people from California. We don't want people from Hawaii. We don't want people from Lebanon. We want Norfolk, 7 cities local,
Mm-hmm.
And so it got to like, it's stupid small, like 50 to 80 people. But we started seeing numbers increasingly come in,
Mm-hmm.
And so we used to actually get together once a month, and we would go out to the 4 or 5 of us. We would go out to dinner and talk about what we want to do with this. Like, what are we going to do with this? Like, how are we going to – do we want to bring in all the people, and, what are we going to do? And so we kind of put together – want to do workshops. So I was looking at multi-GP. I know I'm sporadic and like jumping all over the place, but my brain is trying to remember everything. Chris Thomas used to hit me up a lot, and it was like when he was first starting multi-GP, and I was like, dude, I don't have the time for that. I work like 7 days a week. I just don't have a time to run this and the club group that I'm already affiliated with and stuff like that. And one of my buddies, Nick Valley, is like, dude, we need to race these things. And I'm like, you want to start a race?
Like Nick Val.
Yeah, he's like, I want to go fast.
I mean,
his quad was freaking named Ricky Bobby, for Christ's sakes. You know what I mean? Like, I love that guy to death, man. He's so funny. But so he's like, we need to start. What about racing these things? Whatever. And I was like, well, hey, man, this guy reached out to me about racing and stuff, and so maybe I got some free time. I actually changed my jobs. I went to a better job, had a little more free time on the weekends and stuff. And I was like, maybe we can do this, And so I reached out to Chris and was like, hey, maybe we should start a chapter in Norfolk. Mm-hmm. And that's where the race chapter started from there. But the prop buses group, and this kind of correlates with the multi-GP, because like now we have multi-GP. Now we have to let a bunch of people in,
right,
to the prop buses group. So we were trying to figure out, we wanted to keep the prop buses group a local group, but we want to give back and start building a community.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we going to do that? Well, my advice was to say, hey, how about we start a whole nother group, and we'll come up with a name. I'll come up with some branding. We'll do some T-shirts, the whole 9 yards, whatever, and we'll let everyone in that group, everyone in the 7 cities that wants to join this group can join, as mm-hmm. long as it stays within the 7 cities. Nobody liked it. There wasn't a soul that liked that idea. They're like, why do we need 2 groups with the same knuckleheads in the 2 groups?
Right.
But it was so funny, and it was so rewarding to see the naysayers, or the people that didn't really like that idea. Once we actually, I said, screw you guys, I'm starting a group.
Mm-hmm.
Can't stop me from starting a group.
Right.
So I started the group. I called it Drone on FPV. I figured it was cool, like double entendre type thing. We're droning on about drones, whatever, and then we're flying drones. And the guys that kind of had a little pushback on starting the second group were the most influential people in that group.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, so like I could just kind of step back, and those guys like had it. They were like helping this guy, helping that guy, bringing these people. The group was just, it just started churning, man. And it just kind of like went bananas. Like, you know, all these people was like, and then it wound up turning out to be like 350 people, 380 people when it was all said and done. But that's when we said, okay, we're really starting to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So really need to sit down and figure out how we're going to manage this, how we're going to, because like I can't do it by myself. I'm gonna need some help, you know. So we went to Debbie's RC World, which is a local hobby shop here, and Chesapeake was a local hobby shop for like 35 years, and you know, unfortunately they closed up shop. It was really sad to see. Some really great people that worked there, and when I went and spoke with them about doing workshops, because one of the things, and that's why I went to the multi-GP thing to come back here, because one of the things with multi-GP was to tier up in tiers is to do like workshops and things like that. And I always thought that was a really cool idea anyway, but I wanted a different way to kind of implement that. So I talked to them, and they're like, we have this huge back open, you know, indoor track, that desk and plugs and power, the whole 9 yards. And there was a nice little field we can go test things and stuff. And so I started blasting to this group that is steadily growing. If anyone needs to know how to build I mean, we were doing this shit on the fly, dude. Like literally on the fly. Like I would say, hey, let's do a workshop next week. And I only told one person. And then I'm like, I'm recruiting you. And they're like, okay. I don't know.
You were voluntelling people.
I was definitely voluntelling people. I was like, we're going to do this shit and you're coming. And they're like, I guess so.
I think I was at that first workshop.
It was crazy. It was
like, awesome.
It was the most organized stress I've ever been in my entire life. Because it was organized, but with me, so I'm ADHD. So when I get a bunch of people around me, I'm everywhere. Like I'm over here, I'm over here. Literally, I was behind the counter selling drone parts at a shop that I did not work in to people that were at my workshop. And I was like, hey, ring this guy up. He's just buying like $80 worth of stuff from you.
Right, yeah.
Because we need this to complete his build so we can go out to your field and test it, you know?
Yeah.
But that's what it was, you know? It was like I knew one guy was at the time was really good with tuning. And this guy's, you know, Baines, my buddy Nick Baines, he was good at freaking everything. I mean, dude is like, you know, the movie, was it Beautiful Mind?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Baines, man. You know that.
Baines is a good guy, though. I like Baines.
He's awesome, man. I love that kid. So freaking, he was kind of like me. He was like everywhere. He was like, you know, just willing to give knowledge to anybody that was willing to accept it. And the workshops worked out really freaking good, man. And I tell you, like seriously, I think we did like 7 or 8 workshops, and every single one of them were on the fly. They weren't planned at all. Like there was literally, I would meet somebody in the parking lot and they were like, yeah, I'm having this problem. It's like, I look at Baines like, dude, you want to hold a workshop next weekend? He's like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, workshop next weekend. And we would just do it. But and it turned in such a really cool thing. By the end of them, you know, I was kind of looking for, I was starting to get a little more traction in the overall community. And you know, because I've been with the MQC now for 5.5 years. Yeah,
you're a community manager out there, and you do more than that, right?
Yeah, team pilot with MQC and moderator of the group as well. Do a lot of stuff on the company page too, but at that time I was just there. You know, I was really good friends with Nick Miller, and I reached out to him. There was one workshop that we dedicated around one of the things that they were doing, and they had this a helping hand. They call it the helping hands.
Helping hands. Yep.
It was like the little alligator clip thing or whatever to help you. Do you have one? Are you about to pull it out?
You know what? I don't have one of the ones that I
I'll
have.
Shut your mouth.
I know. You know what? I wish.
That's exactly it. But
except it was wooden base.
It was wooden base, and it was CNC'd out on the same machine that cut all of our carbon fiber.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, that's a really cool. It goes together with the workshop that we're doing. So at this point in time, I was like 7 workshops in. At this point in time, it was like I was literally like one of the first workshops. My buddy Big Lou, I'd helped him learn how to do BL heli, like flashing and configuring and stuff like that. So by the next one, which was this one, was the helping hands one, I looked at him. I was like, "You're going to be teaching people BL heli today," and he's like, "I don't what? Just learned this shit last week." And I'm like, "You're going to be showing people if they have BL heli questions, you're going to help them." And he's like, "I guess I'm helping them."
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of how the workshops worked. It's like, oh, that guy's good at something. Hey, come over here. That's what you're going to be doing today, you know. And that's kind of how the helping hands thing, like just giving back to everybody that's given to you. Because if these guys are giving their time to come there and learn something, then I felt that it was only right to give my time to teach them something.
Yeah.
You know, and I did my best to try to give them as much knowledge as I possibly could at a rate to which they could retain it, you know, and a lot of people retained it. A lot of people took a hold of it, and a lot of people learned a lot. And it was like some of the most, it was, I mean, you and you had your kids come out and stuff like that, you know, and that's really rewarding to see families come out, you know, and, it's really cool, man. It's really, really cool to have those times. I kind of miss them, actually.
Rob is a good friend, and I'm very glad that even after we had an altercation at the beginning of my FPV experience, that we patched things up, and I got to learn who he was and what kind of a good guy he is. In our next episode, we talk about how the community itself ultimately bifurcated. The racers went one way, the freestyle pilots went another. And today, there's not much of a racer community in the area, but there is a strong freestyle community. I'd like to thank my patrons. My patrons are the ones that make this thing possible. If you'd like to be a patron, links below. And I'd also like to thank all of you guys that have stuck in with me so far. The last few weeks have been drama-filled, and quite honestly, that's not what I want for this show. But sometimes that's what happens. I don't control what people say or how they act in this thing. And I feel it's necessary that I portray them as they want to be portrayed, as they tell their story. And sometimes there's fallout. Recently there has been fallout, and quite frankly, the decision between editing out the controversy or keeping it in and being true to the story, I will keep it in every time. And that is a promise to the people that I interview and to the people that watch. So thank you guys for hanging in. I know quite a few folks have decided not to, but I hope that you all continue to enjoy this show. Talk to you soon. Bye.